Welcome back. Just a really quick one because I've just sent out a number of shells around the country, Kutai shells, mussel shells that is, for other weavers to use to extract muka and make pew strips and things like that. And I have made a video on how to choose the perfect shell for muka extraction, and I think I popped the link somewhere below, just in case you haven't seen it yet. But there are also quite a few people who think you can just pick up a shell off the beach and then just get going with it. And unfortunately, that is not the case. In my video, my original video on how to choose the perfect shell, I also say that ideally you wanted to have a nice straight edge and all that sort of thing. I'll just show you quickly, sorry, my personal shell. And my personal shell has a distinct kink in it. You can see it there. And it actually has an even deeper kink here, and I put some band-aids on it because it broke at some stage, and it's still working fine, but it has but that basically shows you that yes, we all strive to have the perfect shell, but unfortunately shells don't grow perfect each and every single time. So there is a variety of sizes and sizes, width, thickness, and all that sort of thing, and some have kinks. I also have, hang on, I'm just gonna grab it. I also have, a whole bucket full, and these are all left-handed, because most people are right-handed, but there are some who are left-handed. It just gives you a different sort of idea of size difference. So if you just look, so some people prefer really big shells, and some people, or children for that matter, want them small or medium. And so when I collected them the other week and sent them out to people, and I normally package them up in sort of lots of 10 to 12 depending, and I put in different sizes. So I went from large to small, because and that goes for me as well, it takes some time to sort of break in a new shell. It's not something that is done instantly, and a lot of people struggle with muka extraction in particular. Say, oh, I can't get it, and it's just not working. And yes, 9 out of 10 times it's probably the harakeke itself. It might not be a muka variety, or the para might stick, but equally important is the shell. But not just the shell, also how the shell works with your hand and how you process the edge. And you need to retouch it every so often as well. I do that when I notice that harakeke that I normally use and is normally perfect, and suddenly I can't get the para off, and then it's usually the shell, meaning it's either become blunt, normally that's the case, or it's too sharp. So there's this, you're just gonna, you have to find your own little way of doing things, but I just wanted to demonstrate, the differences that you can have. So you have, this one's got a kink. There's quite a few, like this one here has a kink on the other side, like some people would even discard this, but it's got a really nice straight edge on that side. Again, small and large in one, so you just see the difference in those. And then, so that's one bit, so you have different sizes. And I have used, in my weaving life, I have used from small shells to extreme large, all of it, and my hands haven't changed. It just means that you have to adjust yourself to whatever you can get and whatever works best. So don't say, oh, I can only use small shells, or I can only use big shells, or whatever. Give it a try with a couple of different ones. You may find that, yes, you normally would use a small shell because you have small hands, but suddenly you realize that those really, really big ones, especially the wild ones that we're talking about, they're much thicker, so you can put a lot more pressure on them. And I mean, I use a glove on my right hand as well, so because shells by their pure nature have some sharp edges and so on, and it sort of hurts the hands every so often, and the glove, a simple glove, can cushion it a little bit. But the other thing, what I'm actually talking about here, is how to make this raw shell that most of you will either found yourself or got from me or from someone else, or that sort of thing. How do you process it from this to make it to something useful? And I mean, you can use concrete, but I use sandpaper. And this is a pack, and that is different. Like the reason, and this is for timber really, but you don't have to use this particular thing. The reason why I buy them in packs is because they've got 4 different strengths. So you go from coarse to fine, and they've got them all in here in little sheets. They've got their number on the back, written on the back. So you like on the back. So and then what you do is, I might have to change the camera angle a little bit, sorry about that, because I don't want to get this stuff on my floor. I've just moved house, so it's a new house, so take this out of the way. So what you then do is, so for starters, see how you got, like little bits of, seaweed and things like that on there. So you remove all that. So what you want is a nice smooth surface, especially if you don't use a glove. You want a nice smooth surface so you don't hurt your hands while you're doing things. And then, ideally what you do is you go from coarse to fine. So I do, well, you don't have to, I do. So I normally use the coarse sandpaper. I won't be using it on this shell because I haven't really got that much time in the video. But basically what I do is with the coarse sandpaper, I do the outside of the shell until it's nice and smooth, right? And then I take a finer one and the finer one and the finer one. And then, when you run your finger along this edge, you can feel if it's smooth or not. And if it's not, then... So the idea is, you're not just going along this edge. You're also going on this edge and on that edge. Like so. Until you think it's smooth enough. And I go normally around the whole edge of the shell because I use that edge to cut my tags off for pew-pew. If you don't do pew-pew strips, it probably doesn't matter. But I like to have a nice smooth edge. And then I sort of, you know how you do with a knife. You just run your finger, your thumb in this case, and anything that stands out needs to be sanded off. And I do this on the inside as well. And sometimes that would be too sharp. And then you want to blunt it a little bit, and that's when you go right on the edge. So if you want to make it sharp, you go on the outsides and the inside. Make it really nice, and that's when if you want to use the shell for cutting, for example, you want it as sharp as possible. But if you want them to extract muka, you want sort of the in-between. And then you just go a little bit at the top here, and then you give it a try. And if it doesn't work, then you change it. Give it another try. And so on and so forth, until you're happy with the result. So this is basically the process that I'm going through with all of my shells. And if I'm lucky, a shell for me lasts a couple of years. Sometimes, unfortunately, I drop it and then it breaks. Sometimes it just breaks by itself. If you're a beginner weaver and muka isn't really something you haven't done much about, chances are you will break a lot of shells in your first year. Just because you're probably putting too much pressure on certain points and you don't know how to hold it, and it takes practice. It's totally normal to break a shell. So don't be discouraged if you can't get any muka out right away. It happens to all of us. Nothing comes overnight. And if you have someone who knows a lot about muka extraction living close to you, by all means, I would highly encourage you to sit with that person and have that person looking over you and just double checking that what you do is beneficial and is right, and watch your technique and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of little fine details that are hard to explain in the video. People who do muka, who make muka or piu-piu, usually, not all the time, but usually have that moment when suddenly, from one moment to the next, it works. And then they don't know why they struggled in the first place. Okay. I can tell you I struggled very much. So just give it a go. And, as I said, sandpaper is your friend. You don't have to buy it in this big pack. If you do, just sometimes, just the fine one will probably do. But if you want to make your life easier, get one of these packs, because they've got different sizes and different grades in them. You can probably buy them in all sorts of hardware stores, or just the single sheets as well. I just, because I use them for wood as well, so that's why I buy them in a pack like this. But yeah, I hope this helps a little bit. I hope. We'll find out. Anyway, happy weaving, everybody.